so pretty though. 2018. Oh no, it's in crooked. Hopefully that's not going to be an issue. Aha, I am expert wine opener. Hey friends, welcome back to Beer and Beauty. Today's libation of the day is not a beer, but again, a wine. This is actually a gift, a Christmas gift given to me by my dear friend Taylor. Thank you very much, Taylor. Merry Christmas to you. And it's from it's called Honoro Vera. It's a 2018 Grenache, and she picked it for me because of the artwork. It's got this lady that's got this colorful eye makeup on, and she knows that I'm into colorful eye makeup and colorful face painting. And when she saw this bottle of wine and knew how much I loved wine and that I'm a face painter, she just thought of me, and I think that's very sweet. So this is the intro video for my long-awaited updated eyeshadow palette Declutter. I actually haven't shot it yet. I have over 100 eyeshadow palettes to declutter, and I need to be very cutthroat, and I need to declutter them all. Well, not all. My dream is to declutter half. I want to bring it down from, like, let's go ahead and count how many eyeshadow palettes I have first, shall we? 1 second. Alrighty, so I just counted and I have 102 eyeshadow palettes, and that's not including a couple eyeshadow palettes that I have that also have face products inside the palette. That's going to be in a separate video. I'm going to do a face palettes declutter as well as an exclusively eyeshadow palettes declutter. And this is the eyeshadow palettes version. If you love watching eyeshadow palette declutter videos, check out my old one. It's my most watched video on this channel, by the way. And this one, I'm hoping to be much more cutthroat. I really got to clear some out because I just put a deposit down on a new apartment in Los Angeles. So I'm going to be traveling cross country, and I need to downsize this collection in a huge way because I'm going to move into a smaller space. I'm going to move cross country, and I would like to not have too many things to move. So, gotta get rid of as many things as possible. So, without further ado, let's get into the eyeshadow palette declutter. But, I still haven't even talked about the wine of the day. So, Honoro Vera Grenache. Ooh, so complex. This is a very complex tasting wine. It just kind of hit me in the face with all these flavors. It's dry, this bite. It has a very smooth overall body. Like, it hits the tip of the tongue with like a little bit of spice almost, and then it's just like really smooth and liquidy going down. And I like it. I think it's gonna be really fun for this video. So yeah, cheers to that. Let's get into the eyeshadow palette declutter, shall we? And I'm gonna be going in alphabetical order. I think I might even leave timestamps down below. And yeah, before I go, my last video, my BoxyCharm unboxing had a giveaway going on it, so go ahead and enter that if you want. Subscribe to this channel if you like declutter videos, because I've posted a few before. I'm going to be doing a lot more coming up. And yeah, check me out for all the declutter videos. And I'm doing VLOGMAS right now too. Not very well, but I'm doing it. Alright friends, so we're going to be doing this eyeshadow palette declutter in alphabetical order. So I decided to just pull out the palettes that have a brand name that starts with the letters A through D. We have my Anastasia palettes right here. Then we have my Ace Beauté palette, just one of those. I'll put that over here. Alamar Cosmetics, I'll put that over here. I have the Balm, my Bad Habit palettes, all my ColourPop palettes, put those over there for now. Then we have Colored Rain, Dose of Colors, two of those, and Dominic Cosmetics. Okay, so I think first up would be Ace Beauté. I think this is a really pretty palette, but I think I used it like 3 times this year. I'd like to use it more, but realistically, would I? So that's gonna go in the maybe pile for now. I'm trying to think strategically about like what am I likely to use in the next 6 months. This Alamar Cosmetics palette I absolutely love. I haven't used it a ton this year, but I think it is an extraordinary palette. I think the mattes are really pigmented. The shimmers are really interesting, beautiful colors, really poppy, beautiful colors. I love this palette. I took it to Cuba with me this year, and I think I'd like to hold on to it. Before we get too far into it, I have, I think, 102 eyeshadow palettes in my collection, and I want to declutter half. So that means I can keep 51. That's going to be big. That's going to be a big declutter. So I have to be very cutthroat. But this, I believe to be an extraordinary palette. So I think I'd like to hold on to that. My wine will go right here. And my Anastasia eyeshadow palettes will go right here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Anastasia eyeshadow palettes. I would like to mention that I also have 2 Anastasia dupe palettes from Bad Habit. So in a way, this at one point this was a complete collection, but as you all know, Anastasia went on a release spree this year. There was a bunch of releases that came out of Anastasia this year that I did not buy because I was in a no-buy year. But before the no-buy year started, or even after it started, I actually picked up this palette this year. I used to be a collector of Anastasia palettes. I gotta think practically about what I will use. This is my newest palette, and I've barely used it because I have too many eyeshadow palettes. But I think I'd like to keep this palette and try to use it more. So that's gonna go in the keep palette. This palette is in my Project Pan this year, and as you can see, it's one of my most used eyeshadow palettes, and I do have a bit of pan in this one. However, the quality of it is changing. It's a compromised kind of eyeshadow palette. So before I move, or soon after I move, I will declutter this. So that is gonna go into the declutter pile for now. Something I have to keep because it's such an essential tool in my makeup artist kit is the Soft Glam palette. Also a well-loved palette, but still haven't hit any pan on it yet. Haven't had it as long as Modern Renaissance, obviously, but some good dips are happening here. I do use this one a lot, and I can't go without it on gigs, so that is one that I'm keeping. I haven't used Subculture that very much this year, but I'm not ready to part with it because it is a palette that I like. Even though many people did not like this palette, I like it. And I think if with a smaller collection, with half of my eyeshadow palettes gone, I might get some use out of it, so I'm gonna try to put it in the keep pile for now. Damn, I love this eyeshadow palette, but it is starting to change. This is the Master palette by Mario collab with Anastasia, and when I first got this palette, the shimmers were unreal, and the mattes were very smooth too. The truth is, I've had it for a while, the quality's changing. It's not as extraordinary as it once was. I think I might put this in the maybe pile, just because the quality of it is changing a little bit, even though I still reach for it quite a bit. I still think it's pretty interesting and extraordinary. And the collector in me, the completionist in me, you know, without this limited edition palette, my collection is not complete. I used to use this palette a lot. I used to dig into Fifth Ave a lot, but I don't use it as much anymore. And I'm just trying to be practical. Is this something I'm going to use a lot in the next couple months? I might, actually. This is hard. I'm going to put this in the maybe pile, but I'm leaning towards keeping it, but I'm putting it in the maybe pile for now. These are my 2 oldest Anastasia palettes. This is the Artist palette. I still think this is so fun. I still really like this palette. I just watched a video from Abby Williamson talking about this palette, how this is one of the items that she's decluttering. I don't think I'm ready to declutter it because I still think this aubergine color is like such a unique color, and I will reach for this palette just to pick up this color. I still would like to get a little bit more use out of this palette. I think I'm gonna keep that one for now. And this is the Anastasia Self-Made palette. When I picked this palette up, it was only available in Nordstrom. It was completely sold out from the Anastasia website, from Sephora, from Ulta. So I ended up going to the Nordstrom website and buying it because it was amongst the first boom of like that like were cult palettes. Like a lot of people were just like, oh, you gotta get this palette, blah, blah, blah. I'd still like to keep it. But the truth is, I think I reached for this palette once or twice this year. This entire year, I reached for this palette once or twice. Deep purple seems like a gorgeous shade. When this palette was new, pink champagne was just this mind-blowing color. Let's swatch it. But the thing is, even though it was once a mind-blowing color, it's still so reflective and pretty and shiny. It's still such a pretty color. But there are other shades in the world that compare to it now. Yeah, this was an extraordinary formula when it was new. And occasionally still reach for this palette. I used to love Treasure a lot. Isla I use for like mermaid looks. That's a really unique like seafoam shimmer color. But you know, I think there's Juvia's colors that are similar and better than this one. This is gonna go in the maybe pile. There's like a handful of colors in here that are making me want to keep this palette. Spirit Rock, Isla, Deep Purple, Pink Champagne. Those are the colors that make me want to keep this palette, but the rest of it is very mid-toned. And the world has moved on from this palette, but I don't know. You know, somebody that's new to makeup or like a makeup enthusiast out there in my life might be really excited about this palette, so it might be fun to pass this on to one of them. But this is hard. This was, oh man, the Self-Made palette. What a cult classic. But that's going in the maybe pile. I'm leaning towards decluttering it, but that's in the maybe pile. So here are all my bad habit palettes. I used to have a lot more, but many of them I decluttered this year. I think my favorite palette is probably Afterglow palette. This is based, this is like a dupe for the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette, and I do reach for this, especially during summer. This is such a fun summertime palette. I think I'm gonna keep this one here. Oh, this is the After Charge palette. This is a very unique palette. This is based on the original and Huda Gemstones Obsessions palette, and there's like quite a few unique shades in here. I still reach for this palette quite a bit. It's got some interesting shifts. I don't know, let's just go ahead and swatch it. No, I just got beautiful shimmers. They perform well, they blend well, and they're very different from anything else in my collection. Like this color right here, New Life, this is kind of like a duochrome. Purple to green kind of duochrome. It's very interesting. So I think that's one I'd like to keep for a little while. After Hours is something that's already on my Poshmark page. It's just one that I don't reach for often, even though it is beautiful. Like the mattes are very smooth and blendable and pigmented, and the shimmers are pretty too. Yeah, that might be one that I put into a bundle. Okay, so here's the Bad Habit Luna palette. This is a dupe of the Anastasia Norvina palette. I bought it last year and I haven't used for it. It turns out that I'm just not attracted to this color story. And I was so hyped for it. I still kind of want the Norvina palette, but the thing is I've had this palette all year long and I just haven't reached for it. So this is something that's already on my Poshmark page. I think I've only used this like once or twice, and this is definitely one I don't see myself using in the next 6 months. So if this is something that you like, you know, it's there. This palette is the Bad Habit Aphrodite palette. It's based on the Rose Gold Textured palette by Huda. It's beautiful, and from what I haven't actually used this that much this year. I ended up exchanging my Rose Gold Textured Neutrals palette that I had from Huda and exchanging it for the Desert Dust palette. But the truth is, and then I bought this one because I still really love the colors, and I was able to get some extraordinary beautiful looks out of that palette. So I missed it and I wanted it back. And these mattes actually perform way better. The original Huda palette did. But the truth is I haven't reached for this palette very much at all this year. That is gonna go into the maybe pile for now. The collector in me wants to keep this palette just to know that if I ever wanted to do a look out of that palette, I could with these colors. And the mirror is beautiful in this palette, but it's just not one that I've reached for very much this year. So that's gonna go in the maybe pile. The Bad Habit Aura palette. This is a dupe for the Anastasia Prism palette, and one, you can tell just by looking at it, I haven't touched it all year long. There's some extraordinary colors in here that I really want to use. I really want to use this, being real with myself, I have to put this in the maybe pile for now because of how little I actually use this palette. There's just some extraordinary unique colors in here. Like this energy color is definitely a standout, and it does swatch nicely. It's like a nice neon yellow. In the original Prism palette, I remember when I was working at Sephora, this green color, this onyxy green color, it's very soft to touch, it's beautiful when you swatch it, and it's very pigmented and smooth still. It still performs well, but I just need to use it. So that's going to be another one that goes in the maybe pile. Meet Matchmaker palette from the Balm. I love this palette. It's a fun little guy. Fun little palette with little baby shades. Fun little color combos here. The idea is that they're like matchmaking shades, like use these colors together in these little groupings, and it's got the wife's name and the husband's name. It's very cute. And I did really enjoy this. I actually kind of got like convinced to buy it. Ebates. I loved it when I first got it, but just don't use it enough. I've only used it maybe a handful, like less than 10 times. And I've already put it on my Poshmark, so would love a slightly colorful but mostly neutral, fun palette from the Balm. This is probably one of the better Balm palettes, and it's fun, and I recommend it, and it's on my Poshmark page for super cheap. So I think next would be Colored Rain. So I have 3 Colored Rain palettes, and damn, I love all 3 of these. The one I use, I kind of use them all equally as much, honestly, but I feel like if I were to declutter one, this is the one I'd probably go first. The Cheers to Beauty palette, but there's some super unique shades in here. This is like a better version of the Kat Von D Metal Matte palette. Like the shimmers in here are extraordinary. Like they make me want to scream, they're so good. And the mattes are a little bit hard to blend, but they're very pigmented. And yeah, the reason that they're hard to blend is because of how pigmented they are. And this is just a beautiful palette, and for those unique looks, this still comes in handy sometimes, so I think I'd like to keep that. Colored Rain Vivid Pigments palettes is one of my absolute favorite Brights palettes. I can't get rid of it because it's too perfect, it's too amazing, so I have to keep that one. And the thing about the Queen of Hearts palette, this is actually my least used palette because it's more neutral. Like the rest of the formula from Colored Rain, the shimmers are extraordinary. They're very reflective, they're very shimmery, and the mattes are super pigmented. So I think I'd like to hold on to that for a while longer, but I have to make a point to use this in the next 6 months. This is a favorite for a lot of people, but it's just, I have way too many palettes, so I never use it. So that's a shame. It's like ColourPop palettes. I have 8. At least half have to go. Some of these are already on my Poshmark page, including Element of Surprise. This is a gorgeous, fun, like colorful but also neutral palette, but I just don't reach for it enough. And some of these shades are really different and extraordinary, but the truth is I just have way too many eyeshadow palettes, and as much as I love ColourPop, I just don't reach for this one enough. And I feel like that would be a really awesome gift for somebody. So that's on my Poshmark page. Let's see. I took this traveling with me to LA just now, but I don't know, I didn't use it that much. Like when I were to go use it for looks, I kind of gravitated to this like section, this half. Oh, I just realized that this is more of a neutral section. This is a more colorful, clubby section. So that's like a really smart way to organize this. So I think I'm going to keep this palette for now. This is the Perception Shayla X ColourPop palette. I think I'm going to keep that for now, but if I don't use it a lot in the next 6 months, I have to declutter it. But it is like a smart, fun, a little bit of everything kind of palette. This is my favorite. favorite ColourPop palette. This is the Dream Street Kathleen Lights X ColourPop palette. I just think that this is just a smart palette. It's colorful, it's neutral, it's got some really extraordinary shimmers. The formula is really consistent. It's got light toned, medium toned, and deeper toned shades in it. It's just like a overall really smart palette. I love this palette. It's probably my favorite. If you saw my ranking my ColourPop palettes video, you would see that this one is my favorite. Oh, did I say that I have 8? I think I have 9. 8, 9. Yep, 9 palettes. So I'm gonna keep the Dream Street palette. A palette that I had a lot of fun with this year that I actually started using for the first time. I just opened it up in like April. I bought it at the beginning of my no-buy year. I finally opened it up in April and I have been enjoying it and I want to use it. Really fun, another well thought out palette with both neutrals and colors, midtones and light tones, shimmers and mattes. Yeah, I'd like to use this a little bit more. This is the Zodiac Kathleen Lights and ColourPop palette collection. This is one of my least favorite palettes. It's very mid-toned for me, but I think a lot of people who are neutral lovers would love this palette. And this is also on my Poshmark currently, barely touched. I think I used it like 3 times. So this is the You Had Me at Hello palette from ColourPop. This is another cult classic, beloved palette, but one that I just never used for. As you can see, this one looks brand new. I've used it like maybe once or twice, mostly for swatching. But some smart neutrals in here. Really, like if you're a neutral lover, you would probably absolutely love this. It's just one that I never reach for because I have such a large collection. But this is the Give It To Me Straight palette, and that is also on my Poshmark page. This is another one that's on my Poshmark page. I have loved this palette in the past. I think this is a beautiful palette. A very extraordinary holiday palette. But I think I've had my fun with it. It's not one that I reach for very often anymore, but I think it's still very smart. The shimmers are gorgeous. It's very consistent with ColourPop's formula. And yeah, this is called the All I See Is Magic palette, and that is also on my Poshmark page. That is being decluttered. This one's one of my favorites. This is the ColourPop I Think I Love You palette. I talk about how this is out of ColourPop's like neutral palettes, this one's definitely my favorite. I think it's really smart. I think it's like a better version of the Urban Decay Naked palette. It's like more modernized. As far as like go-to neutral shimmer shades, it's got them all. It's got like this beautiful copper, this beautiful gold, this beautiful like champagne-y shimmer, chocolatey brown, more red tone brown, and like a cool toned brown. Like it's got all the shimmers. Oh, and like a cool toned gold. And also like a nice neutral, like shimmery, like it's got everything you need. It's got like a setting shade, a crease shade, a deepening crease shade, and a black. Like it's kind of a perfect palette. It's very well thought out and I love it. And I think I'm gonna keep it because sometimes I throw this into my kit because it's got a little bit of everything. It's just a beautifully thought out palette. I love it. I love this palette for so long. This is the Yes Please palette from ColourPop. And I still love it, but the truth is I've been reluctant to use it a lot lately this year. I don't know, I have other things in my collection that I want to use more. And, you know, I might regret it if I declutter it, but it's one that I don't want to use in the next 6 months. This is a fun summertime palette. Some really extraordinary colors in here. This is very unique, but I think there's people out there in the world that would love to get a chance to play with this palette, so I think I'm going to list that on my Poshmark. I'm going to declutter this one. So it was such a cult classic for a while, and for good reason. I think it's time for me to declutter it. How many cosmetics? This is a pretty new palette to my collection. And you know what? I'm just realizing that this color, Black Matter, is like a more fun version of Spirit Rock. A lot more glitter in this one. So that makes it easier for me to maybe part with Anastasia Self-Made. I'm gonna put Self-Made in the declutter pile now. And this is pretty new. I haven't played with it much yet, but I love the shimmers. I love the mattes. I think there's some unique stuff happening in this palette. It's really fun. I've been loving playing with it so far. I've gotten some beautiful looks out of it. It's still pretty new. I'm gonna hold on to this one for a little while longer. And then I got my 2 Dose of Colors palette. This is the Desi and Kitty Friendcation palette. One I haven't used enough, but it's so beautiful. I think I would love to use it if I didn't have too many eyeshadow palettes in my collection. The few times I've used it, the shimmers are extraordinary, the mattes are extraordinary. They're very easy to blend, they're very pigmented. Same with the shimmers. This blue, I'm looking at it in the light. It's got like a midnight purple kind of reflect to it. It's so pretty. And you can kind of layer some of these colors up together to get really unique colors too. Like in a tutorial, Sam Ravindal put like the pink and the blue together to make like this purple. And that was absolutely gorgeous. I don't know. I really want to use this more. I don't want to get rid of this. This is too beautiful, but the truth is I haven't used it enough, but I really want to. So that's one I want to keep. And the Blushing Berries palette. This is a new one in my collection. I recently got this in a BoxyCharm, I think in like October. I've used it once or twice. It's very pigmented. It's beautiful. It's a great palette. But am I going to use it a lot in the next 6 months? I don't know. I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. I love the packaging. I love the red. Red is my favorite color. Blushing Berries is kind of like probably a good one to choose for me out of all their selection of mini palettes that they had to give away during that month of BoxyCharm where they were giving out a ton of like Dose of Colors palettes. Yeah, this is super pigmented, really nice. And I'm going to put this in the maybe pile for now. Need a little re-up here. All right. Cheers. So this is the EFGHIJK section. This section is all the brands of which I have eyeshadow palettes, of which the first letter of that brand is either EFGHIJK. I hope that makes sense. That's everything that's here, so let's go ahead and organize these guys into their letters, their brands. Got a lot of Juvia's Place here, actually. Mostly Juvia's Place. Huda. Oh, whoops. L is supposed to be for the next section. There's E. Okays. And then this palette we're going to consult with is my one e.l.f. palette. This is the Nude Rose Gold palette. Looks like this. I got it as a birthday gift years ago. I've never really used it. That is definitely a one to be decluttered. That's already on my Poshmark page. I think it's in a big bundle of like drugstore eyeshadow palette. If you're interested in trying a bunch of cult eyeshadow palettes from the drugstore, that is on my Poshmark page. Next up is F. This is my Face Candy Atlantis palette. Beautiful blue-green palette. It's actually based on the joke palette that was released by Tarte on their Instagram for April Fools. We're just like, wouldn't it be funny if we made an eyeshadow palette that was all blue and green? And then people were just like, actually, that would be fucking awesome. So Face Candy actually made that palette, and I really love it. It's very like unique in my collection. It's got some really fun colors in there. I reach for all the time, every time I'm doing like a blue look or a green look. Like I will use this palette anytime I do one of those. The blue is really different and extraordinary. This matte blue called Empire. It's like a midnighty, purpley almost kind of blue. I love this color called Title. It's like a super icy inner highlight color. I love that. Mattes are extraordinary. I don't know. I just love this palette. But you know what? I'm curious to compare this color called Swell next to... I wanted to see if it was very close to the Pisces from the Kathleen Lights palette, but it's very different. The Pisces one's a little bit more turquoise, a little bit more green. This one's a little bit more turquoise blue. But yeah, that's another one I definitely want to keep. My one H brand is Huda Beauty. I love all three of these palettes. These are extraordinary palettes. Love the Huda Beauty Obsessions, Electric Obsessions palettes. It's one of my favorite colorful palettes. It's such a like easy thing to pack. It's the only authentic like Obsessions palette that I have, even though I've like coveted so many of them and I've wanted basically every single one of them. And I tried to buy a bunch of the Gemstones Obsessions palettes. Do you know what? While we're here, I'll go ahead and just consult with you this item. So I have these little palettes here that I'm not even including in like, they're not actual Huda palettes. These are like fake dupe palettes that I bought off this like online retailer called global beauty, blah, blah, blah. And I found later that these are just like fake palettes that are sold on AliExpress for $1. Luckily, I paid like $10 each for these, so it wasn't a huge loss. But even so, $10 is way too much to spend on this. I broke my no-buy for this stupid sale. You know, I made a whole video about how I got scammed. It's called I Got Scammed. And I bought these palettes and they were a huge mistake and I shouldn't have done it. They're dupes of like next edition of Huda palettes, the Gemstones Obsessions palettes. I wanted all of them. I thought I was buying all of them. I ended up getting these fakes. They're not very pigmented. They're not very cool. And I'm not gonna keep any of these. So I think I'm gonna give these to friends with the disclaimer being like, hey, I don't wanna keep these. I thought that they were gonna be like cool, but they're not actually the worst in the world. It's just that I can't use them for the purposes that I want to use them. Like I don't Instagram looks with these. Maybe a little bit as an accent here and there, but I tried to return these, it didn't really work. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give these away to friends with the disclaimer being like, hey you guys, these are like fakes, so just be like really cautious of how they, you know, react with your skin. So these are like little fakes that I'm all gonna like declutter I suppose. But yeah, the original Electric Obsessions palette, this I will keep. I love this. And I love both of these Huda Beauty palettes. Like, the truth is, the Desert Dust palette I haven't used very much this year. Like, there's a couple times I reached for it, like maybe 3 times throughout the year. But that's obviously because I have too many eyeshadow palettes. I still think it's beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Are you kidding me? It's got neutrals, it's got colors, it's got extraordinary shimmers and glitters and stuff. It's got some duochromes in it. But this palette, the Huda Beauty Nudes palette, unreal. Like, these shimmers are just extraordinary. I think I have to swatch them because they're just so... They're just extraordinary. The way they shift. You actually can't really tell what color you're going to get when you first look at them. But they just are so shimmery. They're so unique. I have nothing like this in my collection. It's like champagne with a green shift. It's so pretty. Look at them on my finger. They're so pretty. This color called Fantasy is amazing. Like, these special shades. It's about the special shades. And yeah, I have to keep it because I do use this when I'm doing bridal looks sometimes for like really extraordinary shimmery looks. I will play with those. Those are really pretty. But as far as the Desert Dust palette, Eden is one I go for all the time. Like it's got kind of like this like beautiful low light effect. It's so pretty. And this color called Retrograde. Ooh, it's changing. Okay, this is really weird. Retrograde is changing. It's turning kind of powdery. Oh, I'm gonna keep it for now. But if it doesn't get a lot of use in the next 6 months, it's gonna be one that I have to declutter. So next J product is this Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette. This is really funny because I had a palette just like this. I had the Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette and I decided to declutter it and I sold it on Poshmark. And then somebody I knew decluttered theirs, gave it to me, and I have it back in my life now. And this one's even more gently used than the one that I had before. This one's barely been touched, but since I got it, I haven't touched it. So this is also on my Poshmark page. Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette, authentic little guy. And now we got my Juvia's Place palettes. Look at all these guys. So I love all of these. I love all of the Juvia's Place palettes. But however, and as you can see, most of these are still in the box. This one's still in the box, so I have to keep that one. This one I've kept in the box. I think I used this palette one time. This is the Afrique palette. Nope, I've never used it. I bought it at the beginning of my, last year, and I still haven't used it. There's some really pretty colors in here, actually. I was actually I brought this out to tell you guys that this is kind of in the chopping block because I've never used it. It's so pretty. Why haven't I used it? Why? That's actually kind of in the maybe pile just because I still haven't used it. Well, this one's one of my favorites. I'm definitely keeping this one. The Zulu palette by Juvia's. I have to keep The Warrior, because I still haven't taken it out of the box. It's brand new. The Magic is new. I still haven't taken that one out of the box. The Tribe is new. I got it with like a gift card this year, and I still haven't used it. But it's absolutely gorgeous, and I was so excited to play with that one. One of my favorites, the Masquerade Mini. I use this one all the time. It's one of my favorite colorful palettes. But yeah, these are the ones that I have used the least. These three. I've had this one for a year. Still haven't taken it out. I haven't used it. I still haven't taken the plastic off. This is why I want to change my habits in 2020 and why I did the no buy year. Because I have all these palettes and many of them are beautiful and amazing, but I just never reach for them because So I think I'm actually gonna declutter the Nubian. I did try to use this like just for the sake of using it this year. And I don't know, I'm just not excited by it, so that's one I'm actually going to declutter. And Saharan I tried to use a lot this year too, but I couldn't quite do it as much. I'm actually going to go in the maybe pile. It's still so new, like I feel like I've used this once or twice. And I think I might put the Afrique in the maybe pile just because it's like, I have to think about whether or not I will use this in the next 6 months. And after I consult with how many palettes I'm keeping, that's going to be a bigger question in my life. Kat Von D. I am not currently buying from Kat Von D anymore. These are all palettes that I bought last year or the year before that. Something that actually just sold on Poshmark. I did use it today just to bid it goodbye, but this is the Metal Matte palette. Fun concept, beautiful packaging, really extraordinary packaging. It says metal this way, or it says matte this way. A lot of these shades are pretty unique. I don't have a moss shade like this anywhere else in my collection. At the beginning of the year, I was reaching for this palette just for this moss shade because it was so different and like so mossy and looks such a great like little gothy color. And I do like some of these pastel-y colors here. Some of my go-to shades I actually have in this. A color that makes me want to keep this palette is this color Feather, this like pale yellow. I don't have that anywhere else in my collection, so I am going to keep the Metal Matte Mini. And yeah, I love the Thunderstruck in this palette, and when I used this palette today, I actually reached for this color, and like this color, or yeah, this color, but it's like very similar to the Velvet. This color scheme is something I'm more likely to use rather than... So this is one I've already sold my Poshmark. This is gonna go. But I am gonna keep the Matte Mini for a little while longer just because this yellow is very extraordinary, different in my collection. And these shimmers are all very extraordinary, especially Thunderstruck. I like this palette. And I get that whole like fun little... It says metal and then it says matte. Metal, matte. I'm hoping Kat Von D will come around because another palette I have to keep because I love it is this Divine palette. I did a couple drag looks this year, and anytime I need to do a drag look, this palette comes very much in handy. The black is great in here, the white is great in here, and the blues are great in here, and this like pale gold kind of shade. I don't know, I just love this palette, and I love Divine. And it's so small and easy to pack, and I kind of like this like tacky green ribbing. It's such a good homage to Divine. And it's a really good palette. It's just the mattes are so like, I don't know. I really like Kat Von D's matte formula. I'm advertising Kat Von D way too much right now for somebody that I'm not buying from right now, but I don't know. I love these palettes and I'm keeping them. The Serpentina palette I love as well too. When I first got it, I used to use it all the time. For the longest time, Blood Milk was the only kind of color of its kind in the world. I actually really love Ankh. I used it all the time to deepen up colors. I think Ankh is a gorgeous color. It's like so underrated. Every one of these colors is really unique and different. And I do have this on my Poshmark right now because I don't reach for it as much as I should, and as beautiful as it is and as much as I love the colors, I don't reach for it because I don't buy from Kat Von D, and I don't want to show it on my YouTube channel, and I don't want to use it to gigs, and I don't even want to like do a look that's beautiful, have somebody like ask me what I'm wearing on my eyes, you know what I mean? It's on my Poshmark right now, it's barely been touched. Damn, I almost forgot. I also have this stupid Kat Von D palette. This is the Saint and Sinner palette. It's one that's really unique and different, and I still haven't played with it enough. And there's some shades in here that are really similar to some of the Anastasia self-made shades. And because there's a couple shades in here that are so unique and different, I still reach for it all the time. Stigmata and Exodus and these Transformer shades up top are pretty unique and different. Ashes, Heaven, Rosary. And it's a limited edition palette, but it's just like, it's one of those palettes that's just, it fills a lot of holes for my needs in my collection. So this, and it's, yeah, as much as Kat Von D's problematic, I can't deny that I love this palette. I think it's beautiful. So I'm gonna keep that. Okay, friends, so now we're down to all the brands that start with the letters L, M, N, O, P, Q, R. Actually, yes. QR. So let's go ahead and get into that. I'm gonna go ahead and separate these guys by their brand. Tasha, a couple of Morphe palettes, Pinky Rose, The Rock, Makeup Forever, Pat McGrath, Makeup Forever, 3 NYX palettes, Milk Cosmetics, L'Oreal. Probably it's going to be LA Girl. This is the LA Girl Colors Matte Eyeshadow Palette. My boyfriend got this for me. It's just like a quick little, like, nothing, like, I just saw this at the dollar store and I thought of you kind of gift. It's cute. It's actually kind of useful. Like, these colors are actually kind of nice. They're comparable to, like, the Sonia Kashuk kind of matte eyeshadows. They're not crazy pigmented, but they're pigmented enough. But I don't need to keep it. That's kind of in the maybe pile. I'm gonna put that in the maybe pile. And also we got a L'Oreal palette, same idea. My boyfriend got this for me at the dollar store, just like as like, hey, I thought of you. I got you this eyeshadow palette. I'm just like, oh, that's sweet. Yeah, it's all shimmers and all shimmer grays. Interesting little guy. I think I'm gonna probably declutter it, but it is kind of cute. I never gave this thing much of a chance. It's only $1. I don't know, like cookies and cream. How cute is that? It's called cookies and cream. I think I'll put that in the maybe pile for now. Laura Lee Los Angeles is the Party Animal palette. This is a cute palette. It's got some really fun colors in here, but the colors are very similar to my Urban Decay Electric palette. I've only used this like once or twice. This is on sale on my Poshmark page for $5. If you want to pick up my merch and bundle it with this, you'll save on shipping. And it's like, I'm selling it for super cheap. The packaging's so pretty. It's got this great like hollow thing going on. I don't think it's a bad palette, but I just have my Urban Decay Electric palette and it's just like better. And I don't know, Laura Lee, I think she got the shit end of the stick during Dramageddon. Like, everybody was just as guilty as her for like posting racist tweets in the past, but because Laura Lee like apologized and her apology was kind of pathetic, like she just got shit end of the stick. And I don't think she's the most guilty out of everybody there. Like, how come Nikita Dragun didn't have to pay for her sins? How come Menu seems like the most fake out of everybody. But poor Laura Lee, she didn't deserve, I mean, she deserved it a little bit, but she also deserves to be forgiven. I think she's trying, and I think she's coming back slowly, but long story short, this is getting decluttered. It's on my Poshmark page. Damn it! I forgot to do these. These are supposed to be in the L section, my Lorac palettes, but I think maybe I can like move them around to make them alphabetical still. Yeah. I'll do that. These are my Lorac palettes, Lorac Pro. This is the Lorac 2, this is Lorac 1. I always pull this one out first because I bought this one first. But yeah, it's a well-loved palette. It's kind of like a kit essential. Like, I have become very well acquainted with the colors in this palette. I know how they work. I know how they're gonna look on certain skin tones and skin types. Hit pan obviously in this color Buff. It's a well-loved palette by me. Same with this one. I also have a little bit of pan on the color Taupe here. I know, like, it's just like these two palettes I take with me all the time when I'm gigging. I might be ready to declutter these, actually, both of these. They're in my project pan. I love these. I need to get new ones, that's the thing. They're starting to like turn a little different. Like, they're not as smooth as they used to be. The mattes still perform great, but the shimmers aren't as shimmery as they used to be. I'm trying to get a little bit more pan, a little bit more use out of them. They're still in my project pan. I'm gonna try to get some more pan on these. I'm gonna use these a little bit more up until the end of the year, but before I move, I might just declutter. I think I have to at least declutter this one because it's changing so much. My favorite colors are rosé, chrome, buff, and light brown in this one. I'll like depan some of these. Light bronze is getting down low. Maybe I might hit pan on that. We'll see. Sable, one of these days I'd probably hit pan on. And then my Lorac Los Angeles Mega 4 palette. I've barely used it. It's also something that's on my Poshmark page. Even though, you know, for like, I used this a couple times for like different mermaid looks. And some of these colors are really fun and different and unique. And that's why I bought the palette. But I haven't reached for it a ton, and I actually put it up on my Poshmark for a while ago. I gotta be honest, peacock kind of irritates my eyes. Like when I put it close to my eyes, like on my waterline and stuff, it like makes my eyes sting. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but I've actually heard other people say similar things too. So that's over on my Poshmark page. It's been at a higher rate because I wanted to get myself to use it a little bit more. I think I'm ready to drop it down for like a price to sell kind of situation. That is going in the declutter pile. So next up I guess is M, and I guess Makeup Forever would be first. So these are my two Makeup Forever eyeshadow palettes. These are super fun. These are great shadows. I love Makeup Forever. They're one of my favorite brands, but these are just, haven't picked up in such a long time. I think they're on my Poshmark page right now for super cheap. I think I'm selling them both in a bundle for like 15 bucks. One of them is called they're both called the same thing, Palette 9 Artist Shadow Palette. And they're great and they're barely used and you can use them wet or dry. They're really unique. They're both all shimmer palettes. I just realized that. Interesting. Those are on my Poshmark page. Next up is Makeup Geek. This is the Manny MUA collab palette. This is just like, I think, a smart, well thought out palette. This is a better version, I think, of the new Manny collab palette with Morphe. I don't know what he was thinking. He's doing the same exact thing that he did with this palette, but this one's like less pans and more to the point than the new like Morphe palette is. I don't know. But I like this palette. I think this brown is really good. It's like a really nice like warm tone brown. Great little mid-tone colors there. I haven't used it in a while now that I think about it, but I like this palette, but I haven't used it in a while. I'm gonna put that in the maybe pile. I think I could use this in the next 6 months easily. It doesn't have an expiration date. It's a powder product. I don't know. I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile. Morphe. I've got 4 Morphe palettes in front of me. I don't know, I've actually decluttered a lot of Morphe palettes recently, at least 3 this year. I actually don't think I can declutter this one. I fell in love with this palette this year, even though I've only used it a handful of times. I think this is an extraordinary, like, fun little palette. This is the Morphe Boss Mood palette. And as you can see, the colors are just fun. The packaging's a little bit more upgraded and a little bit more sleek, which I like. I think I'm gonna keep this one for now. This is the 35O palette from Morphe. One that I've never really used that much, even though it's such a cult classic. This is already on my Poshmark. I actually kind of miss my 35W palette because during Halloween I'd take it out to do skulls with because I had that great range of cool tone browns. And I tried to use this one for skulls instead this Halloween. It's a little bit too warm toned. I miss having the more cool toned palette. Though this one worked fine for that too. It worked well. As far as just regular eyeshadow palette looks go, I never reach for this palette. So that's on the chopping block. That's already on my Poshmark. The Jaclyn Hill palette. This actually seems a little bit more beat up and a little bit more used than it is. It's one that I keep in my kit all the time, just in case. You know, it's my handy dandy Jaclyn Hill palette, just in case I ever run into a color that I might need. Reach for this one. But you know what I think is gonna happen? I'm gonna try to use this palette a little bit more this coming year for like bridal and in my kit and stuff. Try to get to know it a little bit better so I can declutter these. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna declutter this but I'm going to depot a few of the shades that I think I'm going to use. And this one I think this one I'll keep. I'm going to keep this one a little longer. This one I'm going to declutter. So that's going to go in the declutter pile. And this is my 35B palette, and it's one that I've loved for a long time. I believe I actually put this in my like top 10 favorite colorful eyeshadow palettes video, and I don't have the Morphe James Charles palette, and I figured why buy that palette if I already have this palette, you know what I mean? And in previous years I've used it a lot during Halloween, but this year I haven't picked up this palette at all. Like I haven't really picked it up very much at all. So I think I'm ready to declutter it. Alright guys, Natasha Denona. I have 3 palettes here from Natasha Denona, all coming in at a retail value of like almost $700. Like these 3 palettes are worth almost $700. And I've actually used all 3 of these, maybe not as much as I should have. Like this color right here in the Natasha Denona Gold palette hasn't been used that much, but I love it. I tried to use these bigger palettes a lot more this year. I think that's why kind of gold got put on the back burner a little bit, but because I've been trying to use these 2 palettes and they never let me down. They're incredible. They're amazing. The packaging is a little on the simple side, but also kind of like, it's like shockproof. It's like nice to travel with. I think I'd like to actually, for realsies, travel with this palette sometime. Like take it on my next trip with me. Oh man, that'd be glorious. I might be able to like get some sick looks out of that. So I'm gonna keep all 3 of these. Next we got some NYX palettes. This is just like another gift from my boyfriend. I've never really used it that much. This is the NYX Love and Florence palette. That's I'm decluttering that already. I've already put that on my Poshmark. This is like a happy birthday palette that came as a birthday gift from Ulta. Pretty, but I think I've only used it once. So that's also on my Poshmark. And this one I'm actually gonna keep. This is the NYX Ultimate Brights palette, and I do use it as an accent palette for like some of these like lighter transition shades every time I do like a colorful look. So this comes in handy quite a bit. Yeah, it looks like the blue is the one I've used the most out of this palette, but I'm gonna hold on to that one for a little while longer. So we're down to P and R. So next up is my Pat McGrath palette and my Bronze Seduction palette. I think that's like the Mothership 5 palette, I think it's called. This was in my favorites a lot during the beginning of the year. It's still extraordinary. Like this red shadow is like one of my favorite shadows of all time. And these special shades down here, they're extraordinary. It's just, I think maybe I should do like a top 25 palettes video. And if I were to do one of those videos, spoiler alert, this might be number 1. This might be my favorite palette of all time. And if it's not, it's like definitely like top 5. This is an extraordinary palette, keeping that for sure. Next up is my Persona palette. Another palette that this is one of my newest palettes actually. I purchased it with a gift card around June or what have you, and I've been using it in my kit a lot. It's a really extraordinary, like, fun palette. Like the mattes are super blendable. The shimmers are a little bit cool toned, but they're beautiful. They're really beautiful shimmers, really extraordinary. I love using it in my kit. Gonna keep that one. Love the Persona Identity palette quite a bit. Next up is my 2 Pinky Rose palettes. I actually absolutely love this Ultimate Brights palette. Doesn't this look amazing? That's so beautiful. And I think this was near the top in my colorful eyeshadow palettes video that I did back in July, or like June, July. And then I also got this Exotic Peacock palette. This one I haven't used quite as much this year, but also pretty new in my collection. The truth is I haven't used it much this year. I don't know if I'll use it a lot coming up. I'm just trying to think practically here. Will I use this? I just don't know. I think I'm gonna put this in a maybe pile for now. But this one I'm definitely keeping, which is tough because it's a beautiful palette, and when I bought it, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna love that, and I'm gonna use that. And I just haven't used it, and I don't know when I will use it. There's colors in here that I'm really attracted to, like this sultry color over here is beautiful, Peacock is beautiful. I've actually used this one for some particular looks. This color Discreet and Risque. Risque is such a different looking color. It looks like it's such a different palette. And the shimmers and the mattes from Picky Rose are actually quite good. I rather like this palette, and I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile. All right, Pretty Vulgar. This is my one Pretty Vulgar palette. I got this in a BoxyCharm. I've used this like maybe twice. I think this is a beautiful palette. Really interesting, like grungy, cool toned, mid-tone leaning dark kind of palette. Very interesting. I think this is an extraordinary palette. I wish I could use it more. But the reality is I just don't use it enough, and it's already on my Poshmark page. So that's, and it's like I've used it twice. Like it's so barely touched. And last up is the, well, that's not last up. I've got the R section to go through, but this is a Profusion palette. Really pretty, like it looks like a dupe of the Urban Decay Naked palette. And it actually performs pretty well for such a drugstore kind of palette, but it's also cruelty free. It's Leaping Bunny certified. That's pretty cool. Another gift from my boyfriend. That's also in a bundle of like drugstore eyeshadow palettes on my Poshmark page. Next up was R. So we got Rimmel and we got Revlon. So Revlon's first. I actually think this is a really interesting, pretty little palette from Revlon. This is one of the Photo Ready palettes. It's an all shimmer palette, but it's like designed over here to like help you build a look, but it's all shimmer. But some of these colors are like really interesting. I don't know, like, yeah, it's like shimmery and it's pretty, but I just don't use it enough because I have too many eyeshadow palettes. Oh, look at that blue glitter. That is pretty. Are you kidding me? So that is already on my Poshmark page. Oh, this is like a duochrome color. You kidding me? Okay, that last color, this duochromy purple pink thing, that is making me want to keep this palette, but I gotta cut things down. I got too many eyeshadow palettes, so that one's gonna get decluttered. But this is one of the gifts that I got from my boyfriend that I think is actually really special, even though this is like a drugstore eyeshadow palette. If you're somebody that's like into colorful eyeshadows, these are like kind of extraordinary colors from the drugstore. Like I love this green. Wow! It's beautiful. Purple is amazing. I accidentally dipped into the black is, you know, leaves something to be desired, but the purple is like, it's got like a blue reflect. That's really pretty. Well, I don't know. The matte could be more pigmented. But the shimmers are actually really interesting in this palette. Really pretty. Like teal is like, wow. Like so impressive for a palette like this from the drugstore, from Rimmel. Do I want to keep this whole palette because I love the teal and some of the shimmers in here? I think I want to keep it just because of its sentimental value. I don't want to give away every single palette, but like I'm gonna keep this one because this one's actually really special. I really love that teal in there, so I'm gonna keep that one. All right, guys. So this is what is left of my collection. This is everything that starts with the letters S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Let's separate them by. I think the first letter is going to be S, and the first brand to talk about is Sonia Kashuk. So this is kind of a dupe palette for this palette from Visor over here. I've kept both for a long time because I feel like this palette is more of like a neutral version, like a less pigmented version of this palette. I like both of these. This one's much more pigmented, this one's less pigmented. And before I started speaking, I thought I was going to declutter this palette, but I think this is a palette that I could use in my special effects kit for doing skulls, because it's got these cool toned browns in here. That might be in the maybe pile. I'll have to consult what else I have in my keep and my declutter pile, so that's going to go in the maybe pile for now. Storybook Cosmetics. This is a brand new palette in my collection. I just got this in my BoxyCharm this month. It's beautiful and it looks like so fun to play with. I think I'd like to play with this, but a lot of these colors I think I have are elsewhere in my collection. Like I've got these blues, I've got like a similar color to this. This Sequin Kiss color looks really pretty. Definitely have a transition color like that. I definitely have like this color Talia. I don't know. It's just so big. It's gonna be so hard to travel with, but it is so cute. I think I'm gonna put this on my Poshmark for now. because it's brand new. I haven't touched this. This is brand new. So maybe I could sell it at like a higher price because I think this is like a $50 palette at full retail value. I would keep this if I wasn't moving. Because I'm moving, I have to think about space and how I'm gonna move things and how much money it's gonna cost me to get a shipping crate and you know what it's like to move. Well, maybe you do, who knows. Okay, my Sugar Pill Pro palette. I love this palette. This is the most extraordinary brights in my collection. Like these are special because like I love the Colored Rain Vivid Pigments palette. But that one's a little bit too intense. These colors are a little bit more blendable. I'm gonna keep this palette for now, but as it's getting to be an older item in my collection, I think I've had this for about 3 years now. I got it at some point 2016. I think at the end of 2016. You know, I've gotten some love out of this palette, especially with this color. I think that's Kimchi. Such a unique color. Nowhere else in my collection is there a color quite like that. And Dolly Pop gets a lot of play too. And I also have a single of Love Plus. This is one of the better like yellows in my collection. Great white. I used this like light blue in my Halloween, like when I dressed up as Trixie Mattel for Halloween, like I used that one. So I'm gonna hold on to it for now, but it needs to be like replaced because it's getting older. And of which I think I just have Tarte. So here's my 2 Tarte palettes. This one I got as gratis when I was working at Sephora. And I love this palette. This is the Tarteist Pro To Go palette. Still smells like chocolate, and they're like, these are such like fun. This is such a great little palette to throw in a purse, honestly. Great like light tone setting shade. This, like I've actually even put this in my kit, and I've used these light shades quite a bit. Really smooth, blendable shimmers and blendable mattes. Love this. And this is actually pretty new to my collection too. I got this in my last Boxy Luxe. The Tarte Face Shaping Palette, the Clay Play palette. I've only used it a little bit, but it smells amazing. And I feel like this would be a really nice matte formula. And I feel like it'd be, I need to keep it just because I need to like play with like fresh, new, basically high-end eyeshadow colors. So, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about this palette. And I've used it a little bit, and it's like really blendable and pigmented and easy to play with. So I'm gonna keep both of these for now. All right, on with the teas. We just have 2 palettes from Too Faced. I had a hard time parting with this palette for a long time. This is the I Want Candy palette. It's the Candy Johnson collaboration palette. I think this is a smart little palette. It's like a little bit cool toned, but it's got like light shades, dark shades, mid-tone shades, some really useful, like beautiful little shimmery shades. I thought, and it smells like candy. It's scented like a candy box, like a truffle candy box. It's themed like a truffle candy box. I think it's super cute, but it's just not the most used palette in my collection. I thought it would be fun for bridal, but this packaging makes it a little bit impractical just because it's like so big and puffy. So this is already on my Poshmark page. I will not be keeping that one. Next up is the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette. I haven't used this palette a ton this year, but I still love it. The peach scent is fading a little bit, but it's not as strong as the peach palette scent. But I used it a little bit this year. It's still like really easy to throw together a look with this. It's still a really good palette. I think I'm gonna hold on to this one. So next up is Urban Decay. 5 Urban Decay palettes here. Oh boy, this is hard. I can't part with my Moon Dust palette. I still use it all the time. It's a beautiful little topper palette. I mentioned it in my favorite bright eyeshadow palettes video. I love this palette. It's just, I don't know, it just brings a lot of looks to the next level. It really just kind of just like, oh, I made a really beautiful like colorful eyeshadow look. I don't know, even make it fancier by adding some more like glitter to it. That's what this palette is all about. I'm gonna keep my Kristen Leanne palette. Actually, towards the beginning of the year, I had to like force myself to stop using this because I was using the blues and the special transformer shades so much. I still need to use like this quadrant of the palette a lot more, but this half of the palette I've been just loving, and every one of these shades is like such a extraordinary shimmer. The shimmers are super extraordinary. There's only 2 mattes in here, this orange and this black, but the black is really black. It's such a good black. It's just a very good black. I just love this palette. It's a really good palette, you guys. If you didn't get it, I'm sorry, but it's good. And this is the Kaleidoscope Dream eyeshadow palette. It's the Urban Decay X Kristen Leon, so I'm gonna keep that one. I have to declutter this. This is like the one eyeshadow palette that I've been like kind of holding on to for sentimental reasons. This is my first big makeup purchase, like the first palette I ever bought that was just like $50. And yeah, I bought it because one of my friends, Genevieve, just loved this palette. She was just like, she swore by it. She's just like, I like to use Sin with Dark Horse together a lot. And I'm just like, oh, that sounds cool. I used to love like Naked and Sidecar. Those were my colors. And a little bit of Buck, a little bit of Half Baked, Smog. This quadrant right here was what I was all about. Branched out into these colors, these dark colors a little bit here, but nostalgia, you know, it's cool. I used to like just put Naked all over my like eyes like crazily. I might try to put it on Poshmark just because this is like discontinued, so maybe, you know, some completionists out there be like, oh, I want to have a complete collection. Maybe they'd be into it, but yeah, I'll definitely list it at like a price to sell kind of price point. So that's gonna get decluttered for sure. Urban Decay Ultimate Basics palette. Like another great Urban Decay palette. This mirror is incredible, by the way. But it's just like a cool toned neutral palette, and I wish I used this more. But I just never did. I wish I did. I never did. I used to like the gray and like these like colors quite a bit at first when I first got it. Those were the colors that kind of like attracted me to this palette. They're just like gothy, like neutral, cool toned. It's a cool palette, but I've never really used it that much. So that's it's one that I have to declutter. Because collecting dust, it needs to go to somebody that's gonna actually use it. Urban Decay Electric. I don't want to get rid of it because this silver is so extraordinary, and this is still like, hasn't been a palette quite like this that's come out. Even though this year was just such a big color, like such a big brights year, this palette is still pretty special, especially because it's silver. It feels a lot drier, actually. You have to kind of, I'm gonna dig into it deep, but it's like, oh wow, this is not performing the way I remember it. You can still build it up and it's still really cool. You know what? I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile, just cause, I mean, the completionist in me wants to keep it, but okay, yeah, okay, so Slow Burn is still performing perfect. It's still beautiful. Thrash. Alright. Thrash is still, the mattes are still performing perfectly. This color Gonzo is very unique in this palette. Actually, only silver is like performing, it's still performing beautifully. Okay, that's going in the keep pile. This is still performing beautifully. Last section is V. I've got two Vs. So Violet Voss is first. Violet Voss Like a Boss palette. I used this one time. I got this as like a bonus buy, like it was on super sale. I think I got it for like $27 during like the 50% off sale at Sephora. Well, at first I was really excited about this palette. I'm just like, wow, pretty. But I haven't touched it all year long. So that's on my Poshmark. That's being decluttered. This palette, I was actually really excited to get this year in a BoxyCharm. This is the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette. It's got a nail mark in it. That's too bad. I've only used it a handful of times, and I need to just use it more. So I'm going to hold on to that for a little while longer. I think that's pretty. I think I should try to bring it to more bridal events this coming year. I think that would bring it to some better use, yeah. So I'm going to hold on to the Holy Grail palette. And I got two Visart palettes here. This is the Urban Decay, the Visart Neutral Mattes palette. Looks like this. It's gotten some pretty good use out of it. It's very pigmented, so a little bit goes a long way. But I think this is one I want to keep because it's still very good. I still use it all the time. I don't use as much as I'd like to, but this is the Dark Matte palette. Dark Mattes, and it's a little bit more colorful. It's more grungy, more cool. I haven't used it that much this year, but in those instances where I am doing kind of like a grungy, darker, more gothy look, I do reach for this palette quite a bit. Admittedly, have to put this in the maybe pile because I don't use it enough. And this goes in the keep pile. All right, let's try that again. So here's what's left. We got one Wet n Wild palette and just like 2 palettes I forgot to mention earlier. And as far as this CoverGirl palette goes, I think it's pretty, but I'm just never gonna use it. So that's already on my Poshmark page in like a bundle of drugstore palettes, and so is this one. This is the Perfect 22 Colors palette. Just one I never reach for. Maybe I should. Some of these seem like they would be okay. Like, okay, that's not a bad swatch at all. This may be darker color. Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that swatch. Damn, girl, why haven't I played with this? Shimmers are kind of incredible. It's like I barely have to touch them. I wonder what this white is like. Not the best white, but not the worst white. I think my decisions about this palette were all based on the yellows. The yellows are kind of bad, but okay, the reds are pretty bad too. No, some of these colors are really nice, but I've already made up my mind about this palette, even though some of these colors are fun. That pink is swatching kind of nicely too. Already made up my mind about this palette. If it doesn't sell before I move, I might keep it, but it is already up on my Poshmark. And this Wet n Wild palette, it's already up on my Poshmark in a bundle of drugstore eyeshadow palettes. And I don't know, this is a really pretty eyeshadow palette. You know what, let's go ahead and swatch it because I think people are sleeping on this palette. I've actually had it up on my Poshmark for a while, but it's pretty. It's got this like beautiful, it's actually kind of strangely a lot like the Manny palette. Definer shadow. It's got this like brown to blue like shift. It's so cool. I have a lot of shadows that are kind of like that in my collection, so that's also up on my Poshmark. And that is it. That is my eyeshadow palette Declutter. So let's go through the maybe pile one more time. What do we have in the maybe pile? Let's take a look. Here's the maybe pile. And I'm just gonna quickly count up what I have in my keep pile. And I just wanna make sure that it's less than 50. That way I can think about what I can keep. All right guys, so I counted up the palettes that I have in my keep pile currently, and it's 47. So I decided to add these 3 into my maybe pile. So that means I can pick 6 palettes out of here to keep. Out of the palettes that are here, the palettes I want to keep the most are probably the Visart Dark Mattes palette. I do use that one quite a bit. Rose Exotic Peacock. This is so hard. Master palette by Mario. I use that one a lot. I'm gonna keep that one. And like I said, I could use this Sonia Kashuk one in like my special effects kit. That could really come in handy in that way. I want to keep the Freak palette because I haven't used it and it's beautiful. And I feel like I would love it if I kept it. I can part with Ace Beauté, even though it's beautiful. I'd love to keep this one. I'd love to play with it more. But there's like palettes in my collection I think I could get more use out of that are similar. This one's like beautiful and I've loved it in the past, but I can get more use out of it. Since I'm keeping this one, I don't need to keep this one. That one, I'm not really even that attached to that one. I've had my fun with this one. I can get rid of that one. I can get rid of the Sahara. I didn't give it that much of a shot actually. Okay, this is where it's getting hard. I want to keep this one for sentimental reasons because Mike gave me this palette and this year I made a beautiful look using this teal, but I have to be practical. This one I should let go because it's so big and it's new. So I might be able to get like a good amount of money of this on Poshmark or on like Facebook Marketplace or something like that. So that one I should let go. Getting down there. Ugh, this is so hard. These are all good palettes and they're all beautiful. But actually, these 3 have a similar thing going on. And I don't use the Aphrodite that much, so that one can go. I'm not that attached to this one. I'm really having a dilemma. I don't know what to do. I could keep 1, and if I keep 2, it's still half of the collection. Is there one in here that I could trade? So these are still in the running for being decluttered. I want to keep these 3. I just want to play with them more. I'd like to do like a Juvia's Place ranking video of Juvia's Place palettes, so that could be fun, so I want to keep that. this is gonna be more practical than this. This is so hard because I like all three of these palettes. I think these are the three that I'm gonna declutter. I'm bringing this one back. So different, so unique, and it's like a good palette. Like, I swatched it. The yellow fades though. Maybe I'll cheat and keep one more. I can keep one more, and I'm more likely to use the master palette. So these are the ones I'm definitely decluttering, which is tough because these are both really good palettes. Just trying to be cutthroat over here. Made my decision about what I'm keeping and what I'm decluttering. So first I'm gonna show you the palettes I'm decluttering. All right guys, so I decided to do this last part vlog style, but here are all the palettes I decluttered today. And something I discovered as I was setting up the pile of palettes to declutter is that I accidentally put my Melt Gemini palette into the declutter pile. I'm just like, absolutely not. No way, Jose. I can't part with that one. So that means I have to declutter one more of the keep. This is the low maintenance keep pile, but this is the official declutter pile. So let's go ahead and count how many palettes we got here. So we got 49, so we definitely have to declutter at least one, if not two more palettes out of the keep pile. All right, guys, so here we have the keep pile. It definitely seems like a lot more exciting and fun. And that's what makes this decision so hard. So what can I declutter? Like, I have to declutter at least one, preferably two, to make it officially half of my collection decluttered. I think I can part with the Sonia Kashuk palette. I have the Vise Art palette and it's like really similar. And you know what? The truth is, I don't reach for this palette nearly as much anymore because it doesn't perform the way it used to. And not only that, there's just been so many amazing products that have come out since this has come out that have surpassed it. It's like the new products are like better. So those two are gonna get decluttered. And now palette collection has been reduced by officially half. It's absolutely amazing. And that is it, friends. That was the eyeshadow palette declutter. I feel cleansed. I feel like a new person. I feel like I'm ready for a new chapter in my life. I feel ready to try some new things with makeup, and I feel excited. Everybody should declutter their eyeshadow palette collections and challenge yourself to declutter it by half. Unless you have a small one, then, you know, if you're somebody that's got like 80 or 100 or like 200 eyeshadow palettes, challenge yourself to declutter it by half. I think that'd be cool. Nonetheless, I decluttered my eyeshadow palette collection. A ton of this stuff is going to be on my Poshmark page. I'll leave the link down below. If you love watching big makeup collection videos, check out my professional makeup kit video. I tried to make that video really cool and really comprehensive, so if you're into that kind of thing, check that video out. If you are into watching declutter videos, I had, you know, this is my second eyeshadow palette declutter video that I've ever made, and I'm also in the midst of a big eyeshadow or like makeup declutter series. Very soon after this, I'm going to do a big lipstick declutter. I've never done a lipstick declutter before, but I desperately need to do one, so that's going to come up next, as well as highlighters and setting sprays and foundations and all the different things that I need to declutter. My whole makeup collection. I definitely have to declutter my clothes. Ugh! Moving to LA. It's gonna be a big thing. I might try to vlog that too. I haven't edited this video yet, but I shot a apartment hunting in LA vlog, and that's gonna be up before this video goes up. So there's that. I also have holiday merch. I also have a holiday giveaway going on. Link to that down below as well. Yeah, check out my merch if you want me to custom make merch for you too. I also am a professional airbrush t-shirt maker, so I can make custom airbrush t-shirts for you with everything that you want on it. Any motifs, any words, you can email me. My email is down below. My social media is down below. I think I've officially mentioned all the housekeeping. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I loved making it. I loved hanging out with you. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. And until next time, Cheers. Bye!